Sometimes, despite your best efforts, your recovery gets derailed. Powerful life triggers, a lack of support, a wrong turn. Relapse happens. It's frustrating, but the important thing is to not wait another day to get back on track. Foundation's Recovery Network is here to help, with more than a dozen outpatient programs and 6 residential treatment centers to choose from. Our co-occurring treatment model gets to the root of your addiction, putting you back on the road to recovery. Call 877-714-1318 to reach our confidential helpline 24/7. We're waiting by the phone.
That Sober Guy podcast contains adult content, merciless truth, and emotional nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
Yo, what's up? Thank you for tuning in today. Welcome to Sober Guy Radio. Thanks to Humans for bringing us in, and thanks to you for supporting the show. We're live in Nashville at the Innovations in Behavioral Healthcare Conference, brought to you by Foundation's Recovery Network. Much love and a big thanks to them for bringing Sober Guy out to Nashville. We're having a great time. If you're tuning in for the first time, welcome to the show. I'm Shane Raymer. I'm in long-term recovery. Definitely honored and grateful to serve the recovery community through the Sober Guy platform. I just want to say out there, if you're listening and you or someone that you love is looking for a life free from addiction, you could have one. All you got to do is reach out and ask for help. You can do that at thatsoberguy.com, or you can go to foundationsrecoverynetwork.com and you can get more information there. So our guest today is Ben Randolph, and Ben is the CEO of Oregon Trail, and that's OregonTrailRecovery.com. Ben entered recovery in 1998 after struggling with substance abuse for several years. After working in the construction trades for a number of years, he went on to school and earned his Master's of Science. Ben has a passion for recovery and institutes recovery principles in all of his affairs, including Oregon Trail's recovery. And as the CEO, Ben and his wife, Jennifer, have applied their dreams of helping others into a reality. So, Ben, it's really great to have you here today, man. It's great to be in Nashville as well. How's things going for you?
Thanks, man. It's good to be here. It's going great. Nashville's a fun town.
Yeah.
You know, we've ate at more restaurants than I care to admit to.
Lots of fried food, huh?
Yeah. We're on the 7-meal-a-day plan, just to keep things interesting.
Yeah, for sure. We've been down to a couple of the spots down on Broadway there, and man, it's some great barbecue, but I'll tell you what, I get so full afterwards, and I just, it's a little bit of indigestion and that old age that's creeping in that's really doing some injustice on me.
Oh, yeah. I need a nap, need 10 hours of sleep at night. It's horrible.
So I noticed it said here you used to be in construction, in the construction trades. I only asked that because I'm actually a drywall finisher by trade before I got into media and communications. What did you used to do in construction?
I was union labor. I used to chase grade for heavy equipment mostly. I ran a lot of iron and a lot of big projects. I worked for an excavation outfit for a while.
Got it. Were you in recovery at the time, or were you still battling substance abuse at that time?
I was in and out.
Yeah, back and forth. I when I saw that too, that brought up, construction's a hard business. It's hard on your body. It's hard work. And I know for a lot of my buddies that are in construction, it's that commonality, almost that social norm to come home and crack a few brews and, and kind of loosen up. And I think, and there's nothing wrong with that if guys can do that and have a beer or two and it's not an issue. But I know from personal experience, and I know other dudes out there, that it can tend to become a problem because you tend to lean on that, especially in that industry. Did you have any experience with that? And what's kind of your take on it?
Yeah, a lot of people say it's a stereotype, which is unfortunate because, it's really it's more true than not.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate thing is, like, for instance, when I started messing with dope, all my coworkers are like, just have a couple beers, guys talking about, well, I just have 2 beers at the bar. In fact, this actually happened to me one time. A guy was telling me how, you just have 2 beers at the bar, and and then you go home and everything was okay. Well, then, find out later that he really goes home and sneaks a half case, and, it's a game that he plays trying to get over on his wife because she monitors how much he drinks, But they're the first guys to say, well, you're doing that hard stuff. That's horrible, and unfortunately, it's all apples and oranges.
Yeah.
I think that, and I've been there too, where, and much you probably were too, where in order to feel better about the life you're creating out there doing what we do, you find ways to put other substance users down for whatever reason, whether it be the behavior they're doing to get the drugs or alcohol or the drugs and alcohol they're choosing to do. And, and so, I'm hoping that by sharing this, that maybe some of the reader or some of the listeners will, kind of grab a hold of it and shit, none of us are different. It don't matter how much time we got clean. I mean, we all relate.
Yeah.
And I like how at the beginning, it's like, I always say ring out, if you get to the point where you want to ring out, do it, and you reach out, right?
Yeah.
And there's no shame in that, because I don't know about any of the listeners, but, I didn't give a damn if I needed to get high or do whatever it was I was doing at the time. Yeah. I'd run up on somebody I absolutely did not know, so to reach out to somebody I might know in passing or a total stranger to get help makes perfect sense.
Yeah, yeah. So if we backtrack a little bit, where did the substance abuse, where did the addiction really start and start playing a role in your life?
I was probably an addict at a young age. I mean, I smoked pot the first time when I was 7. Neighbors got me stoned.
Damn, 7. That's little, man. It's a little dude. That's my daughter's age.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It trips me out, and I grew up in a part of Portland called Felony Flats. It's a little, working class, blue collar, but a little rougher. And so, I just always kind of had that need for more. And then, through high school, and I maintained okay, but once I joined the service at 19. I was already drinking alcoholically, and then some things happened in the service, and I came back from my second deployment, and I'd crossed that line into PTSD, and I didn't know it. And I came home with a pocket full of dope and a habit, and I didn't know what that was all about.
Where were you deployed?
I was over in the Gulf twice during the Gulf War.
Oh, wow.
In the Navy. And just, some things happened on the boat that, I guess my mind couldn't process.
Yeah.
So
you came back, and you were obviously, sounds like a bit of a different guy at that time from some of the shit that you had experienced. And you also had an addiction problem at the same time. Is that kind of the case?
Yeah.
So where does it go from there?
I just, it was fun at first, right?
Yeah, it's kind of partying.
Yeah, and, I came home with a pocket full of dope, a bunch of money saved, and I thought I was going to be a drug dealer. And, it was brutal. It was just a brutal lifestyle. And, in the choices I was making, I got in way over my head. Yeah. And, of course, started going to jail. And, started trying to get clean meantime, and I caught a case in 95 and got about a year clean behind that one.
Oh, wow.
And
would you, because you got in trouble, is that kind of what pushed you? Because I hear that a lot, like it's almost not voluntarily, I got in trouble, so now I have to get clean. Do you think that was part of the
it was like the only time I got clear enough to think about getting clean, I was laying in Multnomah County Jail, which is Portland, Oregon.
Got it. And Portland's no joke, man. I don't know a whole lot about it, but there's it can be a rough part in some areas, right?
Yeah. See, now it's all a lot of opiates, but back then, everybody I knew was cooking meth. So
wow,
it was crazy, and it's kind of the wild, wild west in the street. Yeah. But, again, for the listeners, it's real important to me that, if you hear anything, man, it's that there's hope. I mean, I don't give a damn what you're going through. We all have hope. And, recovery is not a bed of roses, but it's sure a hell of a lot better than anything I ever did before.
Yeah.
So, I bounced back and forth, and then finally, I caught another case and yada, yada, yada. And finally, 1998, my ex-wife and I had separated. We had 2 little boys, and I kind of bullied her into getting back together, and we went to detox. And she went under her maiden name because they wouldn't take couples. And
wow.
it was like the perfect storm, right? I had a bed in a family treatment center that let me go in with the boys. Well, I got her in too. She made it about a week and walked, and I stayed, and I became a single dad. My boys were 2 and 1.
Dang.
And so, I didn't have a driver's license for a couple years, so I rode the bus everywhere with a kid in a backpack and a kid in a stroller. And, I don't share that. I only share that so, the listeners can say, hopefully what you got going is easier than that, and
like you said, there's hope.
Yeah,
there's always hope.
And it's totally doable. People used to ask me, how do you do this? And I'm like, you just do. It's like anything else. You just do it. And so, I had the opportunity to go back to school because when I was getting loaded, that was the one thing I knew if I got to be like 50 years old and didn't have a degree that I would regret. So I went back to school, and it was like, man, it was kind of a God shot where it just kind of rolled out in front of me, where I started at the associate level and, found a program through the VA that helped me with housing, and then I got a really nice scholarship when I was transferring from the community college down to Portland State. And it just, like I said, it just kind of rolled out in front of me, and I worked through my master's degree. The other part of it is it's been trying for me personally off and on is everybody says, don't go working in the field and call that your program, and when I say program, I work a 12-step program, to each their own, and I'm also not a purist, there's more than one way to get sober, but the key is that, there are times where you get so lost in the work of helping others that you do lose sight of things. I have. Yeah.
Well, that's actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because it's came up twice now in 2 of the other shows that we've done earlier this morning, in similar circumstances where the person is working in the recovery industry but is also in recovery themselves. And that's one of the questions that I had asked was, how do you separate that? How do you get, it's so easy to get lost in the work that you do and then forget to take care of your own needs and work your own recovery program. And it sounds like that's kind of where you're going with this. So let me just ask you, how do you separate that?
The biggest thing is, for me personally, the biggest thing is I have a home group. It's a men's meeting. I've been going to it since I was 4 years clean. And all, now we have a transitional living program with sober livings, and all my house managers know, man, they do not roll through Loyola with any of the guys. That's my space. And that's one way I separate it. The other way I separate.
Oh, I see. So any of the dudes that are in the sober living homes, they stay away from that meeting because that's your space to work your own recovery shit and not worry about the other dudes and doing the work that you do.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay, got it.
Now, see, okay.
So setting boundaries, man. That's
right.
That's sweet.
Well, I'm blessed though in a sense because Portland's a huge recovery community, so there's a lot of meetings I can hit. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday who works in a very small community, and he finally found a solution. He moved really, but he was struggling because every meeting he'd walk into, he had clients, ex-clients, ex-employees, and man, that can get really rough.
Yeah.
The other thing is the other key to keeping them separate is having people around you that tell you the truth. The thing I was thinking about, it was right around my 13th birthday. I was doing intervention full time, and I was in a hotel in Austin, Texas. I'll never forget it. I was talking to a gentleman that's actually been clean 3 months longer than I've been alive, and he and I were chatting, and he said, have you ever heard about those guys that go to work in treatment and make treatment their program? And I said, oh yeah, man, I see those guys all the time. He said, you've become that.
Oh shit. So he was just honest with you straight up.
Oh yeah, that was a hard conversation,
Yeah.
man. I was pissed.
You're like, yeah, screw you, dude.
Yeah.
What the hell do your old ass know?
Well, and then it's one of those deals where I got pissed, and then I just wanted to cry because
He was right.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, totally.
dead set.
Yeah, gotta have those people in our lives, man. And it is tough sometimes, but man, I mean, I know that those are the true. That's the true realness of a solid, relationship or conversation, I guess, if you don't know the person. But we definitely need that. So when did you start going from recovery, the program, and then actually go into, because you had mentioned that you went back to school. When did you start actually working in the industry?
Pretty quick. I was in my third term or sixth term. I can't remember now. Sixth term. Sixth quarter.
Uh-huh.
No. It would have been third quarter. I was in my third quarter in 2000 and started interning as part of the program I was in, doing DUI work. And so I did that for 2 terms, and then I had a client who was a DUI, but he told me about this other program that was under the same parent company that he was also involved in, that dealt with dual diagnosis guys who were parolees and probationers. And that sounded fascinating to me. So I went and I ended up working for them for 5 years or 6 years off and on, and that got me clear through school.
Nice.
And that was, that was amazing.
Did that help keep you sober too? Like finding some work that you actually felt, purposeful and passionate about?
Yeah, it did. To have value.
Yeah,
when you come from that lifestyle, and you don't have any value, you certainly don't have any self-value.
Yeah.
I'm sure the listeners that are in recovery can relate, of looking in the mirror and just not being real cool with what you see. Excuse me. So that was the thing, I remember one of the guys told me, he says, looked at me one time, we were hanging out playing dominoes because all my paperwork was done, and he said, you're just like us. And I go, yeah, man, more than I want to admit, you know what I mean? So, but I really, and I had guys, when those guys made it, they made it. I had one client that stayed in touch with me for years that he, 50 years old, spent most of his adult life homeless, and he got him, he was doing advocacy work down at the state capitol for the homeless and the mentally ill, and
after he got cleaned up. And he was 50 when he got cleaned up.
Yeah, we got him.
That's incredible, man.
We got him sober, and got him a little studio apartment that was right near the facility that we used, and so stories like that.
Yeah.
And guys like that, they make more of a difference than I do. And I do this stuff every day, all day, but they're down there, talking to the legislature. I've never been before the legislature in the state of Oregon,
Yeah. Everyone's definitely got their role, and I think I love hearing those stories like that of men or women who have been in the later years of their life and actually turned it around. I think that's it says a lot. It says that anything's possible. Like Ben already said, there's always hope, and it really doesn't matter how old you are, whether you're 16 or you're 50. It's never too late to make some changes. So Let's get into a little bit about.
Hold on, just a sec.
Go ahead.
I want to touch on something.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So you had mentioned 16. I just had a friend of mine celebrate 38 or 39 years. He and his brother got clean at like 17 and 18. And he shared a really So mind you, he was 17 when he got sober.
Yeah.
One of the gentlemen that's at my home group, Loyola, had told him when he came in, he said, "Don't ever let somebody tell you that they spilled more than you drank." He said, if they tell you some bullshit like that, you shut them down.
Yeah.
And so it's real important to me, Shane, that I touch on that real quick, because if we got anybody listening that thinks they're too young, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, just like my friend John that got sober at 50. You know, I got sober at 28. You get sober at 16. I don't, that's your stuff, not anybody else's.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome, man. It sounds like you got a really cool home group. What's the name again?
Loyola.
What's up to the Loyola home group out in Oregon, in Portland, right?
Yeah, it's actually,
awesome, man.
I think the website is loyolamensgroup.org.
Oh, cool.
And
let's put that in there.
It is, there's talks on there. There's talks about step work. I mean, if all you have is internet access, there's some really good resources on that website.
Yeah, that's awesome. If I am ever in the Portland area, if you don't mind, maybe we'll stay in contact and I can hit up a Loyola men's group meeting, man. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah, that'd be really cool. I'd love to have you in there.
Yeah, thank you. So let's jump into to Oregon Trail a little bit. Tell us about Oregon Trail. What Oregon Trail is, what it's about, and how it's helping folks out there get and stay sober.
Okay, so first of all, because of my history, I'm real careful about what I get into.
Sure.
Oregon Trail was, my wife and I decided to start Oregon Trail because we just needed something longer than the 30-day treatment.
Yeah.
At the time I was consulting, she and I were both consulting for a treatment center. I'd gone in there to turn their clinical around. She was helping their marketing team, and because it was just a bad deal anyway. Yeah. And so, these kids are still walking out. We did really good work, but these kids are still falling on their face. And so it was like this long-term thing is what we decided was missing clinically to really give these guys and gals a shot at long-term recovery.
Yeah.
So we started with just men, and, and we've always been, because I'm a clinician by trade, clinically we've always been very, very strong. And we, with the Oregon Trail, we do outdoor stuff, especially this time of year. We do a lot of hiking with the clients.
Oh, that's awesome.
We start everybody at PHP or day treatment, and then we help them get jobs. The whole thing is you come to Oregon Trail, you go to work, you go to school, or you volunteer.
Yeah.
You got to be, you got to give back. I mean, you got to be a part of society.
Yeah.
And we do. We do groups every day, 5 days a week. House managers, live-in house managers. Most of my house managers on both the men's and the women's side are graduates of the program.
Yep. So is there multiple houses?
Yeah, we got. Excuse me. I think we got 35 male beds right now and about 12 female, but we're getting ready to expand female again.
Oh, awesome! Man. And so those are spread out over the Portland area.
Oh, okay. So Portland's made up of 3 counties, and Clackamas is kind of the southern county, if you will.
Okay.
And so all of our stuff is in Clackamas County.
Okay, got it.
So it really, and they're really. I mean, when I say Clackamas is also one of the largest counties. I mean, it goes clear up to Mount Hood, but
yeah.
It's all pretty close in. They call it Happy Valley now. It's Clackamas, but Clackamas, Milwaukee. It's kind of the southern tip of Portland Metro, and that's where all our stuff is.
One of the things that stands out to me that I really like that you had touched on real quick, and I know just for me personally, I grew up hiking and backpacking. My grandpa used to take us up to the Marble Mountains and do just phenomenal backpacking trips when I was a kid. And when I went through my teenage years, like 14, 15, I kind of transitioned from backpacking to smoking pot instead, right? And so I kind of lost that along the way. And now as, and I still did camping and stuff. Like I camped, but I was getting, hammered the whole time camping. That's what camping was about, right? And so as I've gotten, clean now and sober, and, I've gotten back into backpacking. We're taking a backpacking trip actually in just a couple of weeks up to this place, Paradise Lake in Lake Tahoe and Truckee area. And the spiritual feeling to be out in the woods and to be out by a lake where there's nobody around you and there's just nature and animals, and you're having to filter water and eat off a campfire or sleep in a tent, and you don't have any of that stuff. There's something about it that is so spiritual for me, and it really helps me to grow and think about life and my recovery and just my family, all that kind of stuff. It's really cool that you guys incorporate that, even if it's just hiking. I don't know if you go to the extent of backpacking, but how do you see the effects of that with the folks that are coming in? How, is that helping them out a lot? And like, what do you see coming out of that?
Yeah, so it's interesting you bring that up, Shane, because we do overnight backpacking trips in the summertime.
Oh, nice.
And we had a therapist that worked for us at one point, and he, was newer in the field, and I told him, I said, when these guys get around the campfire at night, you just let them talk.
Yeah.
And he came back and he was just dumbfounded because he said, he goes, man, some of those guys are my caseload. And I go, yeah, I know. And he goes, man, I heard stuff around that fire that I've never even heard in session, right?
Yeah.
Because it's that, like you said, it gets you in touch with that spiritual side,
yeah.
Right? And that's what it's about, right? When we go hike in the Columbia River Gorge, or even, we go down to the Oregon coast and dig clams, all that stuff is cathartic. We get out there and, we realize there's more to life than checking our phone every 25 seconds,
That's the best thing I like, is when we go up there, my phone doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like you can't get on it. That's it. We bring a little music because I want to hear some Willie Nelson or some Merle Haggard when I'm up in the woods. But other than that, I don't have any technology, man. It's just me, maybe a couple buddies who we're with, and God and the lake. You know what I mean? Maybe some fishing, whatever. So that's cool, man. That's cool that you incorporate that.
Yeah, it's so important. Talking to a friend of mine, one of the speakers here, and I wish I knew his name because I'd give him a plug, but he ties in. He says, a lot of times in the treatment industry, we're missing that spiritual component.
Yeah. Sure.
And the thing that attracted me when I first got sober, I'm going to touch on this real quick, is, when everybody I got sober with, they get to the third step and they say, well, what's your higher power? And I said, well, my higher power is these three men. And it was my sponsor, my case manager from the VA, and my dad. And any question that a guy or gal might pray over, I would ask these three men, and I would go best two or three because I had trust issues.
Yeah.
And so all these people would tell me, well, you can't have that. And I'd say, bullshit. Book says I can have anything I want.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So I share that because, Shane and I are sitting here on this podcast talking about, different spirituality. I mean, it doesn't have to be God. It doesn't have to be the God you were raised with. It doesn't have to be whatever. It can truly be, and just by my example, and I'm dead serious when I say, I just told people, get the hell away from me, because I was real, I was desperate. I needed this sobriety.
Yeah.
But I had to find something higher power-ish that worked for me.
And I think that's the point, is exactly that, what you just said, Ben, is that you got to find something. So it doesn't have to be what you've been told that it has to be, but you got to find something, because that spiritual awakening, it's imperative to carrying this thing forward and moving ahead, and getting over some of the challenges that lie in front of us. Because I know damn well I can't do it on my own. If, whenever I try to do it on my own, I ended up in trouble. And so when I stopped doing that, man, things tend to fall in place. So, man, it's been great having you, Ben. I really appreciate it. If folks wanted to reach out to you, or they want to find more information about Oregon Trail, where can they do that?
They could reach out to us at 800-555. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me. 855-770-0577. Or they can reach me via email at benjamin@oregontrail.org. OregonTrailRecovery.com. And for all the listeners, I just want to say that, you know, I was born and raised in Portland, and I know a lot of the resources in the Northwest. So, you know, if you need a therapist up there, if you need anything, you know, don't hesitate to shoot me an email, and I'll help you any way I can get plugged in wherever you need to be plugged in at. For instance, night before last, I got a random text message from somebody I don't even know asking for a counselor up in Walla Walla, Washington, and so I helped him find one. You know,
Nice.
That's where the recovery supersedes the business. Like, I don't, you know, and
Yeah.
a lot of us are that way. We just don't give a shit. We just want to help the next guy get better.
That's what it's about, man. That's what it's about. So what's up to the Portland area, man? That's it's awesome. Sounds like there's a lot of good things going on up there. One more time, that's OregonTrailRecovery.com. And that phone number, one more time, if you want to reach out to them, it's 1-800-855-770-0577. Ben, thanks again, man. It's been a pleasure, my friend.
All right, thank you.
Thanks again for listening live from Nashville at Innovations and Behavioral Health Conference. Sober Guy Radio coming to you. Peace, love, respect. For more information, go to www.thatsoberguy.com. Keep your blood clean.